And girls, how are you doing today? Single roleplay here once again. Today I want to share my thoughts on the recent game that just been released around a week ago, which is called Remnant from the Ashes. It's an FPS looter shooter game. It's a really good game. I just finished it on the normal difficulty. Played with my friends for about 3-4 days in a row straight. Great game, and just want to share you guys some information about the game, how it works, what it does, and what are my thoughts on it so far. Before we go further into the video, I would like to stop for a second and thank my Patreon supporters and Twitch subscribers. You guys have no fucking idea how much I'm thankful for you. If you just stop for a second and put likes on this video and share it with your friends, it will be already an insane amount of support, and I will be forever grateful to every one of you. Thank you so much, and remember,
yes, you are making a difference.
First thing that I want to talk about is the visuals of the game, how it looks and how it plays in general. So if you played Hellgate London, Resident Evil 5 or Dark Souls, you will be pretty familiar with this type of games. It's kind of a FPS looter shooter action. Also, the guys behind the game developed Darkstalkers, so if you played Darkstalkers, you will also find a lot of similarities there. Overall, it's kind of a mix of everything, to be honest. The action part, which is shooting, is mostly a lot like Resident Evil 5 resemblance. Some monsters and visuals and settings is a lot of hellish demonic things out there from Hellgate London. I thought at first couple of levels, the first wall is a lot like Hellgate London. Looks like what brought back into like 5-6 years ago. 10 years ago. So yeah, that's it. Also, the game works a lot like Dark Souls with these checkpoints, which is like the fireplaces and recoveries and all this shit, consumables. There's a lot of Dark Souls things over there. At the same time, the visuals and the graphics is absolutely fantastic. The game runs extremely smooth, not a single lag, and what you see here, this lag, is actually because I've been recording and streaming at the same time, and my GPU just completely throttled. I only realized it later. It is overheating like crazy. I've been rendering on the GPU and streaming on the GPU and recording on GPU, so like 100% GPU overload there. That's why the streaming was very choppy, but the game itself in the game was no problem at all. Super smooth, guys. Visuals are amazing. I really like the scenery. Fantastic post-apocalyptic cities, dungeons, mushroom cities, demons, all that stuff, trees. Absolutely fantastic. Another thing about the controls, it's an action shooter looter, so controls are super smooth. I get only one complaint, which is the toggle sprint, which is kind of weird because sometimes it does do sprint and not sprint. I got used to the fact that you press shift, you run, you unpress shift, you stop running, you're walking. This game toggles run, and there's no way to run. Basically, you just run or don't run. There's no way to kind of run and stop running. So it toggles the sprint and on and off. It's kind of very weird. Probably will be fixed later, I don't know. Control super smooth, no problems. Everything is great. Crouching, dodging, jumping. There's no jump, so just spinning around and strafing and all this shit. Absolutely fantastic. Optimization is brilliant. Once again, not a single crash in all time that I played. Not a single one. Everything is smooth. No fucking... There's some bugs there. Sometimes monsters got stuck in the scenery. I noticed it a couple of times. The bosses got stuck a little bit, but overall nothing crazy, and it gets fixed on the fly as well. So visually the game looks like a complete smooth product. Another thing is about the plot itself. The plot is a subjective thing, but I found it a little too shallow for me, especially at the very beginning of the game. When you start playing, you don't really understand. There's not many NPCs to talk and not many things to do. You just mostly follow one giant quest line. There are no side quests in this game as well. You just follow one straightforward quest line, and that's about it. There's no NPCs, kind of characters that give you some extra, like go there, bring us something, we'll return it. Sometimes you stumble upon some things and then you accidentally return them to some accident NPC, and it accidentally gives you some kind of thing which you have no idea it would be useful. You just found something and just brought it, talking to some vendor, and you just thought it will be useful and just gave you something in exchange. So there's a lot of RNG and surprising effect as well. Another thing is the way the game works in general. So when you start playing, the game generates a thing, an entity called the world, and the game is separated in these different worlds, which like a biomes, like biomes in different settings, let's say. So this is the first world, which is kind of a post-apocalyptic city with different sewers. The second is also different. The third is also very different. So this is like, you know, Diablo 2, you know, Kura city. Then you just go to the some other city, and then you go to hell and whatever. So like different settings, different worlds, and one world consists of about 4-5 different big areas with dungeons, one up to 2 dungeons in each. Also, one world consists of about 3 mini bosses, which is not a mini, actually pretty solid big bosses. But at the end of this world, you face the big ass boss of the world, which always gives you something good. Speaking about the characters themselves, there's actually 3 archetypes that you can play. When you just start the game, you see these 3 figures there. One is a mostly like melee character, the second is semi-ranged, and the third is practically a sniper hunter type. I selected hunter specifically because I thought it would be easy to take down the enemies from a big distance, and I was kind of correct. I have no idea how you can play some bosses in complete melee because they just require some range. And overall, this variety is kind of a myth, because all these characters just the only difference between them is the starting armor and weapons. So the melee character starts with a heavy armor, which basically gives you a high defense with a close range, while the ranged character starts with a lightweight armor, which gives high mobility but literally no defense for the close range. So this is the only thing that is pretty much different, as well as some difference in the static weapons. So this guy starts with like a long rifle, while the melee character starts with kind of a shotguns and guns and all kind of melee weapons as well. So overall, no big difference between the 3. The way that itemization works is also pretty interesting. There's no attributes in this game. It's not really like an RPG in any way, to be honest. Just very simplistic RPG elements. There's no attributes to assign. There's no strength +1, dexterity +1, whatever the fuck there is. It has nothing of this. The only stats that you get affected is by the gear that you wear, and a second thing, which is called traits. Traits is like the perks or the passives or the notables in from Path of Exile. It's basically like a specific thing that you get and start raising up from level 1 to level 20 and gaining this thing, like for example resistance, gaining 1% of resistance from 1 to 20, and when you input this shit in 20, you get 20 resistance. That's about it. You gain these traits by defeating bosses, progressing through the storyline, completing specific quests, and that's about it. By killing monsters and completing quests, you gain experience, which the only thing to spend, it all goes to the traits. So the only thing that gives experience is the traits. Weapons have no experience in them whatsoever, just the weapons. So that's about it. There's a pretty decent selection of different things in this game, like the consumables, the items, the crafting things there, and there's also weapons which have sockets, which can insert specific mods. Like, for example, you shoot a pistol and it applies some kind of corroding damage over time, or applies a shock, or spreads some tentacles, or creates a defensive screen of some kinds. There are many things that can be inserted into different types of weapons, and these mods can be acquired by defeating bosses during the worlds. They're like meat bosses, or level bosses, or dungeon bosses. And by defeating the world boss, which is at the end of this giant world, you get unique crafting material, which you can bring to town and craft unique weapon. That's about it. That's how it works. Another thing that I greatly like about this game is how it can surprise you in a good way. It looks pretty shallow from the first place, like a standard straightforward shooter, but in reality it's quite deep, and there are many hidden things over there, quite a bit of secrets, hidden areas, unorthodox puzzles and things, which allows you to think a little more, like with your gray matter. So a lot of things are quite easy to miss, and the best thing about this game is how untrivial the boss fights are. Depending on how you fight the boss and how you kill the boss, you gain different mods and different loot. For example, shooting one type of boss in the legs provides you a different type of boss fights, and as a result you get absolutely different type of loot from the boss, other than just straightforward killing in the head, for example. That's pretty unique, and I honestly haven't played that much of games such as this for the last couple of years, but this is probably the most unique feature that I haven't seen anywhere so far. Depending on how the fight goes, you get different fucking type of loot. That's pretty crazy. Another thing that I noticed, and I'm not sure if it's a myth or not for now, but this is a reality that I faced during the gameplay, is that the world can generate in multiple ways, and it can generate different meat bosses. The world boss is always the same, but the meat bosses, which are like bosses inside the dungeons and some areas there, they can be different sometimes, and you can get one boss during this walkthrough and an absolutely different boss during another walkthrough, which is quite crazy. Some of the guys which I played with told me that he got one boss and I got the other boss, and he told me he never got the boss that I got, and at the same time I never got the boss, I never found the boss that he got, and he got a couple of weapons that I just never got. So that's why the game has a pretty fantastic replay value, because once you finish the game in a normal difficulty, you completely re-roll the world. It clears all checkpoints. You start from scratch, saving your progress on the character. Your character is saved, all the power is saved, all your traits is saved, all your weapons, everything is saved. You just kind of clear the waypoints and the areas, and you start from scratch. And the world can generate in a different way, and you potentially can spawn different bosses and get different loot and get some different traits, get some different mods, get some different crafting materials, gain some different experience, and find places that you'll never found on your first walkthrough. That's why there's a certain amount of RNG which fucking surprised me. Honestly, did not expect it from this kind of game, and this is probably the strongest feature of the game. As far as I know, this game is also highly extendable. This is just the first big campaign that we're watching right now and we play right now, and this takes quite a bit of time to finish it, and the guys behind the game definitely will be extending this and giving more content, more loot, more bosses, more worlds, more areas, and I honestly can't wait to play it. As a summary, guys, I can totally recommend the game. It's not the most cheapest game on Steam, but it's absolutely totally worth it. I was dramatically surprised by this game, because when I started playing once again, I thought it's kind of mediocre, pretty empty, lackluster shooter. But once I got more into the game, I was totally surprised by decent amount of content in the game. One of the most important facts about this game, guys, is I want to mention that the game strongly strongly is for cooperative play. If you have friends to play, this is the experience you need to do within this game, because playing solo is just not only extremely frustrating, but it's very hard, but there's also lacking experience, because some of the traits which are kind of passives, like I said, they bring some party buffs as well, like massive healing, damage reduction, damage and all that kind. It's also for the parties, and it basically creates a lot of an interesting gameplay environment for you as well. So I can strongly recommend playing in the party, because the game is extremely hard in some places, and some bosses take a couple of hours to kill even in the party, and in solo is just an absolutely insane experience. I probably will not even kill the bosses in solo, because I'm started replaying this game in a hard mode right now, and I'm already struggling a little bit, and probably will have to call for help once again. So once again, guys, this is a strongly party oriented game, and play with your friends. You will have a lot of fun. Thanks for watching, and see you soon. First of all, I would like to thank you very much for watching the video. Your likes and dislikes, especially, as they push me forward even more. If you want to see more content, please consider subscribing to the channel. I do daily uploads of role-playing content, be it builds, guides, let's play, stream highlights, and upcoming RPG games. Also, don't forget to follow my Twitch stream to catch me live in action. I do stream daily on working days. I'm a full-time YouTube content creator and a Twitch streamer too, so if you want to support me, you can do it either from Twitch or by PayPal directly from my website angryroleplayer.com. Join my Discord channel too for a place to discuss RPG things offline, as well as follow my Twitter to be notified on any new content. If you want to get extra information like sneak peeks into upcoming videos, plans, different behind-the-scenes footage, you can also join the Unholy Army on Patreon as well, guys. Thank you very much once again for watching and listening to all this. See you soon.